two simple mountains of less than 900 meters in altitude have provided the little dictator Jonas Vingegaard with the perfect opportunity to take out his anchovy bloated with ketones and slap it in the face of two of the best gregarios of Tadej Pogacar, Juan Ayuso, and the surprising Mexican monster Isaac del Toro, and thus he takes his first Tirreno Adriatico, despite the relatively poor result of the time trial of Lido de Camaiore with the famous Arrowhead 2 helmet that we analysed in a previous video. The Maglia Azzurra that Poggy won in 2022 in front of the faithful Danish husband suits the herring-smelling cyclist so wonderfully now. And is there anything better than a trident as a trophy for a guy who used to make a living cleaning fish? However, the most amazing thing is how Jonas has absolutely shredded all the records set in this competition, with data that surpasses that of the most doped Giro d'Italia in history, the legendary 2009 edition, where tax fraudster Denis Menchoff crushed lifetime sanctioned men like Danilo Di Luca or Lance Armstrong. And he has done all this a week after the world number one made an attack with 80 kilometers to go, and after a stay at home to make love to his wife after spending a rainy weekend in Galicia, abusing rival cyclists in a village competition. Vingegaard is now facing 3 weeks of active rest following his stealth preparations until coming back in the Zulia. So it is clear what he was going to do in Tirreno: sweep, and sweep hard. Now first, let's have a look at some data, and then we can analyse the facts in front of us. The Visma rider's first win is a clear response to what Poggy did in Strade Bianche, a competition also organised by RCS Sport. Jonas has seen how they've offered such huge amounts of money to the Slovenian to participate in the Giro d'Italia 2024, and so what he actually did on March the 8th, 2024, is sent a message to old Mauro Vegni and Paolo Bellino, telling them to give him more money and he will go to the Corsa Rosa in 2025. Vingegaard could not attack 80 kilometers from the finish line on the flats because no one would have believed it, but he could attack at 30 kilometers to go on the climb to San Giacomo, a pass with more than 11 kilometers of climbing at an average gradient of 6.29%. It was not an excessively hard climb, but still it was enough to humiliate all his rivals present there. Riders such as the winner of a Giro d'Italia, Jai Hindley, or the virtual leader and great Spanish hope, Juan Ayuso. Halfway up the climb, JV attacked, and in 5 kilometers he managed to take more than 1 minute off the group of favourites at a Martian pace, with a normal power of more than 7 watts per kilo, and at a speed of more than 27 kilometers per hour of continuous climbing. This data can only be explained with a Paniagua condition. And then he practically maintained it over the false flat of the Castellana Valley Lake, and he crossed the finish line with more than 1 minute and 12 seconds of advantage over Ayuso, Hindley or Del Toro. A real statement, a real Charlotte. And a statement that would have left the winner of 7 Grand Tours, Chris Froome, somewhat out of contention, out of control, but the White Kenyan and possible stage winner in the Tour de France 2024, according to him, avoided this by not taking the start in this mountain stage and in a rather cowardly way, coming after making a fool of himself in the other stages of the next day, however, the Vingegaard show continued. Sure, it was a high finish on Monte Petrano, a 10-kilometer climb at 8.13% average gradient, a tougher climb. And after already going in the lead, he could have let other riders take a piece of the pie, but that's not the case for little dictator Vingegaard. He tried with Richard Carapaz, the Olympic champion who even made it to the Tour de France podium, with the blonde who had declared that he would have liked to have raced doped alongside his compatriot and last Danish winner of Tirreno Adriatico, Rolf Sørensen. The education first rider is a consummate climber, and he has mutated into something of a stage hunter, but it didn't help him in the face of Vingegaard's unbridled hunger. And he marked Jai Hindley well, managing to drop the Giro winner and the Ayuso white jersey, and all with absurd ease, and this coming a day after eating 30 kilometres at full power with all that air in his whitish white face. Many were not surprised by Jonas's display because it was only 6 kilometres, and of course he couldn't take minutes off his rivals, but let's pause and look at the data. He climbed more than a minute and a half quicker than another notable winner on this summit, the always clean but riding in doped teams, Carlos Sastre, and this in the infamous 2009 Giro d'Italia, a race swimming in Ipo Masira, of which we have spoken to you previously. True, that day was climbed after 15 days of competition and after 7 hours of stage, and not the 4.5 hours that are done today. But remember that Corsa Rosa was full of dirty dopers, and this Jonas Vingegaard, he came from literally doing the helicopter with his wife just days before, and suddenly he surpasses those magical records of the past. Which makes us ask the question, what is this Visma team doing with everything and everyone? The overall classification of Tirreno Adriatico for Jonas Vingegaard is his 7th win of the season in only 10 days of racing. Old Jan Tratnik achieved a win that he would never achieve in another squad in Het Volk. Wout van Aert has already successfully started his classic season with victory in the Kuurne Brussels Kuurne after an attack almost 70 kilometres from the finish line. And then sprinter Olaf Koy has 4 wins. And this is not to mention the fabulous performance of new signing Matteo Jorgenson in both classics and one-week tours. He is showing an impressive level in Paris-Nice, one which he never achieved in his Movistar years. Visma are winning on every possible terrain in every possible way. And sure, they are not going to get the wins in all 3 Grand Tours like in 2023, and nor are they going to win every major competition on the calendar, but still, the dominance they are exhibiting in 2024 is similar to past dominant teams like Michele Ferrari's Geris Ballan in 1994, or Sky's Marginal Gains team in 2015. And it all goes to generate the feeling that this Rabobank team can win in virtually any race situation, barring injuries or the sort of thing that happens to men like Michael Hessman or former Visma team rider Antoine Tolhoek. But best of all, JV then comes out with those scary statements, claiming that his best level is yet to come. Can you imagine Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic flying with Red Bull wings and yet still being able to beat Vingegaard in his next 2 races, the Itzulia and the Criterium Dauphiné? I certainly can't. But then, seeing what Jonas is doing to try to make an impression and cow Poggy ahead of the Tour de France, well, I certainly don't think so.